If you feel like the teachers need to have a scripted plan laid out, this is what lesson you will teach at what time, and this is how it's going to go, and here's your lesson plan, and it's all set out. That kind of and I'll call it a boxed curriculum approach, for lack of a better term, it really doesn't serve the students well. It might be easier for the teachers because they don't have to do a lot of preparation or a lot of thinking or manage a little bit of chaos. They kind of follow the recipe, and and the students will follow along and do what they're told, or not do what they're told, whatever the case may be. So I worry a little bit about that there are some districts that in the desire to bring order and structure for teachers, squelch the creativity and learning opportunities for the students, just because they have things too tightly scripted or too controlled. If that's the case, then typically it's a project where there is one end result that the students are trying to achieve. And there might be a couple different paths to get there, but the students' creativity and their ability to apply their own interests and to do a project where they're working on something they care about gets lost.
Right.
And so I guess that's another thing I'm concerned about, is just over-structuring the coding and computer science, which you'll see that in other subject areas as well. I mean, you can acquire curriculum that is scripted right down to almost to the minute of what's going to be done and what's going to happen in a class or during a particular classroom session. And, it might have some cool audiovisual support or activities that go along with it, but it's a pretty scripted, recipe-driven curriculum. I can't imagine. I mean, as a teacher, I never got excited about stuff like that. I can't imagine that well, I mean, I know students don't like it because, they're almost like, well, you're just following the book. You're just following, you're just, you're not doing anything cool or creative.
Mm-hmm.
You're not helping me understand this. So I guess that's something I also worry about, is just trying to make it too scripted for teachers rather than giving them the opportunity to let the students explore.
Yeah, I'm hoping that with the continued spread of culturally responsive pedagogy or teaching, that kind of gets rid of that. So I previously worked in a district, not Avondale, but one before that, where the PE teachers hit play on what I think was a cassette at the time, and it would just verbally dictate out what all the kids were supposed to do at that day on that lesson. So like there was no choice, no interests added to it. Everything was literally scripted, and every elementary teacher in the district was expected to hit play on the same cassette every week. And it was just a nightmare, the opposite of what trying to do.
What a terrible, what a terrible student experience, but
right.
You can't imagine the teachers really thought that was terribly worthwhile either, but
right.
Who knows?
From my perspective, it just completely got rid of any expertise that any of those educators could have provided in the realm of physical education, and just made them so that they were just going around just making sure people were stretching the right way or things like that. Like there was no autonomy or ability to kind of customize things to match the interests of the kids they were working with.
Well, yeah, there's a huge push in education right now for personalized learning.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people are still trying to figure out, what does that actually look like and how do we make it happen, and what implications does it have for teachers? But coding is a great example for that, because if you've got students that are working on something that they care about, by definition, they're just not going to be the same as the other students in the class. And the other thing that you mentioned culturally responsive curriculum. The cool thing about, when students do something they're interested in, they can do something that is of very personal interest to them.
This excerpt was from podcast number 19 of the CSK8 podcast, which is titled Advice for School Administrators Interested in CS for All with Clark Merkley. You can listen to this episode and hundreds more by searching for the CSK8 podcast on your favorite podcast app.